I want to try something a little different to start today. I want you to close your eyes. Seriously, unless you're driving a car or operating heavy machinery, just shut them for a second. Now, try to imagine a place where distance isn't measured in miles or kilometers. Imagine a place where distance is measured in silence, where time isn't ticked off by the second hand of a clock or a notification on your phone, but is compressed into layers of ice that are older than human civilization itself.
It's a difficult thing to visualize, isn't it? We're so biologically and culturally wired to define our location by the noise surrounding us. The traffic outside, the hum of the refrigerator, the ping of an email. We define places by the events that happen there. Politics, festivals, disasters, the rush of the economy.
Right. And that's the trap. We think a place only exists if it's loud or if it's trending. But today, we're going to a place that is defined by how little happens, or at least how little happens in the way we usually think about it. We're talking about Greenland. And I don't mean the country you fly over on the way to Europe where you look down and say, oh, look, snow.
Yeah.
I mean Greenland as a concept, as the absolute deep end of remoteness.
And remote is the word we really need to drag out into the light and examine today. Usually when we say remote, we just mean far away.
Yeah.
We mean it takes 3 layovers and a long flight to get there. But Greenland challenges that definition entirely. Remoteness, there isn't just a geographical coordinate or a travel inconvenience. It's a psychological state. It's an overwhelming sense of scale that forces you to confront your own insignificance in a way that is actually quite uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable is putting it mildly. It's the kind of place that changes you just by standing in it, assuming the cold doesn't kill you first. So here's the mission for this deep dive. We aren't just going to rattle off facts and figures about ice density, though we will get to the physics of that because it is mind-bending. We're going to take a journey. We're going to start in the dead center of the country, on the massive inland ice sheets, travel out to the glaciers where the ice wakes up, hit the tiny villages clinging to the coast, and end up at the frozen northern edge of the world.
We're effectively traveling from the deep past, the geology of the Ice Age, into the present day, and then to the very edge of habitability where the future is. Well, it's currently melting.
So let's step out of the studio and into the white. We're starting with the inland ice sheet. Now, usually when I think of an ice sheet, I think of a frozen lake in Minnesota or maybe a snow-covered soccer field. But the Greenland ice sheet, saying it's a field of ice, feels like calling the Atlantic Ocean a puddle. It's often called the most remote place on Earth, but help me visualize the actual scale here.
The scale is absolutely staggering, to the point where the human brain struggles to process it. We're talking about an expanse of white that covers 1,700,000 miles. That is about 2.8 million kilometers.
Okay, I hear the numbers 1.7 million miles, but my brain just glazes over. I can't actually picture that. It's just a big number. Help me visualize what standing on that kind of mass actually feels like.
Think of it this way. When you're in a commercial airplane cruising at altitude, you look down and the world is just a patchwork of tiny squares.
Sure. Cruising altitude is usually what, 30,000, 35,000 feet?
Right. Now imagine you're standing on the bedrock of Greenland, the actual dirt and rock.
Yeah.
If you looked up, the surface of the ice, the snow you would be walking on, would be a third of the way to that airplane. In some places, the ice is over 10,000 feet thick. That's 3 kilometers of vertical ice. You are buried under a mountain of solid, compressed water.
That is heavy. I mean, literally heavy. That much ice has to weigh an unfathomable amount.
It does. And that weight is the key to understanding the landscape. It's not just sitting there like a blanket. The ice is so heavy, so incredibly massive, that it has actually crushed the Earth's crust. It's a phenomenon called isostatic depression. If you magically remove the ice tomorrow, the island of Greenland wouldn't be a flat plateau, it would be a ring of islands. The center has been pushed down below sea level by the sheer burden of the ice.
That's terrifying. It's literally depressing the planet. It's shaped like a bowl because the ice is crushing it.
Precisely. And for you, the human standing on top of it, it creates this total sensory deprivation. There's nothing to look at. No trees, no mountains, no contrast. Just a 360-degree white void. And because there are no markers, no buildings, no trees, there is nothing to tell your eye how far away the horizon is. Everything shimmers in this ethereal glow known as the Arctic sun effect. It feels like you've left Earth entirely.
It sounds like a white room torture chamber. But beautiful.
Hauntingly beautiful. But what fascinates me most about the ice sheet isn't just the space, it's the time. That ice didn't just appear last winter. The snow you're crunching under your boots is a relic of the last ice age. It has been forming layer by layer, compressing down for nearly 2 million years.
2 million years! So when you're walking on it, you aren't just walking on snow, you're walking on a timeline.
You're walking on a record of the planet's climates, its eras. That ice was accumulating long before humans gave names to anything, long before we had maps or language or fire. To stand there is a very humbling experience. It's not about conquering the space like planting a flag on Everest. It's about feeling reduced by it. You realize that this landscape remains largely indifferent to whether we arrive or not.
That indifference is the scary part for me. We like to think the world revolves around us, or at least reacts to us, but this ice sheet, it just is. Now, if you want to get to this ice sheet, you usually go through what's called the Ilulissat area. It's known as the Gateway in western Greenland.
Ilulissat is fascinating because it acts as this transition zone. You move from the coastal lands where there's actually soil and scrub brush into this glassy blue world. You start to see these massive crevasses cutting through the snow.
And the wind there. It's not just a breeze. From what I understand, the wind rolling off the ice sheet is a physical force.
It's called a katabatic wind. The air over the ice sheet cools down, becomes incredibly dense and heavy, and then gravity pulls it down the slope of the ice toward the coast. It carries this chill that feels like it's coming straight from the heart of the Arctic. It feels old.
There's a weird human element to Ilulissat too, right? It's not just nature, it has this strategic history.
It provides a stark contrast. Ilulissat has a history as a strategic location, a Cold War military base, a stopover for transatlantic flights.
Yeah.
You have these old radar stations, the DYE-2 sites, which are these surreal, sci-fi-looking buildings on stilts that are slowly sinking into the ice.
So you have this history of spies and military strategy and airplanes all sitting on the edge of this frozen expanse that spans, 1.7 million square miles? It's like a juxtaposition of our petty human conflicts against this geological giant.
It creates this feeling that the ice is shielding ancient secrets. You have the modern human history of the Cold War sitting right next to the geological history of the Pleistocene. Standing there, it feels like time hesitates, like the pause button has been hit on the world.
Time hesitates. I love that imagery. But eventually, physics takes over. That ice doesn't just sit there forever. It has to go somewhere. Gravity always wins. And that brings us to our next stop. We're moving from the static, frozen center out to the coast where the ice wakes up. We're going to the glaciers, specifically the Sermeq Kujalleq.
This is where the narrative shifts from silence to violence.
Yeah.
Sermeq Kujalleq, located in northwestern Greenland near Ilulissat, is a giant. It's one of the most productive glaciers in the world.
And when we say productive, we don't mean it's good at multitasking. We mean it is churning out ice like a factory.
Exactly. It releases immense ice flows. The visual contrast here is stunning. You have these shimmering white walls of the glacier set against the deep blue of the fjords and the icebergs it calves. Let's be clear about the size. These aren't ice cubes. They are nearly 300 feet high above the water. That's 90 meters.
So imagine a 30-story building made of ice just floating past you, and that's just the 10% you can see.
Exactly. And this is where we have to challenge the idea of isolation. We talked about how remote this place feels. But Sermeq Kujalleq connects Greenland to the rest of the world in a very physical way. This glacier is one of the fastest moving on the planet. It acts as the drain for that massive ice sheet we just talked about. The ice it pushes into the ocean raises sea levels globally.
So the ice melting or calving here, this remote event, is actually flooding a basement in Florida or eroding a beach in Bangladesh.
It is the pulse of the planet. Standing there, watching those massive blocks break off, you feel that connection. It challenges the idea that remote means disconnected. It creates a delicate balance. It is a place untouched by humans, yet it is a harbinger of change for every shore on Earth.
That leads us right into the Ilulissat Ice Fjord. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it spans over 25 miles, or 40 kilometers.
Ilulissat is special. The name literally means icebergs in Greenlandic. Here, the tons of blue-white ice drift past the town, and because of the latitude, you often see this under the midnight sun.
The midnight sun is such a trippy concept. The sun just doesn't set. It just circles the horizon. How does that affect the feeling of the place? I feel like I would lose my mind without a night cycle.
It definitely slows down your perception of time. There's no night to signal the end of the day. You lose the rhythm of work, rest, sleep. The endless glow makes the ice look like it's glowing from within, pinks, golds, violets. But the soundscape, that is what people always remember. We talked about silence earlier, but the ice fort isn't silent.
Right. I've heard people describe it as groaning, which sounds like something out of a horror movie.
It's not far off. It's a very organic sound. The ice cracks, it groans, it pops. When a large berg rolls over, it sounds like thunder or a cannon shot. It sounds like living things. It sounds like the earth is stretching its muscles.
That's visceral. You're hearing a geological process happening in real time. Usually geology is too slow to see or hear. Here it's loud.
And this fjord has shaped Inuit life since the very earliest settlements. It's a place of incredible beauty, but also danger. The crisp air stings your face, reminding you of the fragility of life here. You have the power of the massive ice and the fragility of the melting shards. It's all there, side by side.
Speaking of life, let's move away from the pure ice for a moment and talk about the people who actually live on the edge of this. We're entering section 3 of our journey, Humanity on the Edge. We're landing in the town of Ilulissat itself.
This is where we see the threshold between the known and the infinite. Ilulissat was founded in the mid-18th century. It's perched right at the edge of Disco Bay.
The visuals here are just iconic. You have these colorful wooden houses, bright reds, blues, yellows sitting on the bare rocks. It looks like Lego blocks scattered on the moon. And right behind them, literally in their backyard, is that Ittoqqortoormiit glacier we just mentioned.
It creates a fascinating tension. On one hand, you have the warmth of human connection. People live here. They have coffee, they go to work, they have families, they check Instagram. But every time they look out the window, they're looking at an untamed landscape that could crush them without a second thought.
It's everyday life, but with a backdrop of the sublime. Wind scraping across the houses, the smell of the sea. And Disco Bay itself. It's not just a pretty view, it's a highway, right? Because you can't really drive anywhere else.
Exactly. The bay is a vital crossing point. For centuries, this bay has been the hub for indigenous hunters and later European explorers. The water is scattered with towering icebergs. Navigating it requires an incredible skill set. You are dodging mountains that move.
And remember, that's just the tip. 90% is underwater. You hit one of those, your boat is done.
The sensory details of Disco Bay are unique. You have this haunting silence, but it's juxtaposed against the relentless motion of the sea. The light changes constantly. The luminous Arctic light shifts the shadows on the icebergs, making them look like different shapes every hour.
It's nature's art gallery, and the exhibits are constantly moving. But if Ilulissat is the town on the edge, Nuuk is the paradox. Nuuk is the capital of Greenland.
Nuuk is fascinating because it claims to be one of the most remote capitals on Earth, which it is. But it's also a vibrant community. It has a population of just over 19,000 souls.
19,000, that's a small town by most global standards, like barely a suburb, but in Greenland that's a metropolis.
Exactly. It was settled by Norsemen around 1,000 years ago, growing from an Inuit hunting ground. Today, you see red and yellow homes hugging the jagged coastline against the deep blue Labrador Sea. But inside those homes and in the streets, there's a vibrant culture.
But I have to play devil's advocate here. We talk about this grounded peace and quiet richness, and it sounds lovely on a podcast. But Nuuk is a modern capital with nearly 20,000 people. Are we romanticizing the isolation? Do the people living there actually feel rich, or do they just feel stuck? I mean, there are no roads out of town.
That is the tension, and it's a very real struggle. You have to remember, you can't drive out of Nuuk. There are no highways connecting it to other towns. If you want to leave, you fly or you take a boat. So yes, for some, particularly the younger generation, that quiet can feel like claustrophobia. It can feel like a prison.
I can imagine. If you want to go on a road trip, you literally can't. You drive 3 miles and the road ends at a cliff.
Exactly. But the richness refers to the proximity to the raw world. In London or New York, you have to travel hours to escape the noise. In Nuuk, you walk to the end of the street and you're facing the Labrador Sea with nothing between you and Canada but freezing water. The wealth is that nature isn't a destination you visit. It's the environment you inhabit. It forces a different pace of life. It's not about slowness, it's about deliberation.
Deliberation, that's a good word for it. You can't rush things when the weather decides if you can leave your house or not. But now we have to leave the relative comfort of the West Coast. We are going to the wild side, the East Coast.
If the West is settled, the East is raw. This is true isolation. The landscapes shift dramatically here. It's starker. Ragged cliffs, ancient rock, drifting pale blue bergs.
And the weather kicks up a notch, right? It's not just chilly.
Significantly, temperatures plunge below minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 45 Celsius. It is a place that actively resists human presence. It tries to shake you off.
Human footprints are rare here.
Very rare. The communities that do exist here have carved what I would call fragile lives out of the cold. It's a theme of vulnerability versus endurance. Living on the East Coast tests the limits of courage. You aren't conquering the land, you are surviving it by its grace.
And dominating this coast is Scoresby Sound.
The superlative of the region. It is the world's largest fjord system.
How big are we talking?
It stretches more than 200 miles, 320 kilometers inland. It's a labyrinth. It was discovered by William Scoresby in the early 19th century.
I love the image of those early explorers sailing wooden ships into this massive frozen maze, having no idea if it ever ended.
It's incredibly biodiverse for such a harsh place. You have musk oxen grazing on the rugged hills. You have Arctic foxes darting across the frozen ground.
It sounds almost like a fantasy novel landscape.
Yeah.
Cliffs plunging into mirror still water under pastel light. But again, beautiful can mean deadly.
It really blurs the borders between isolation and belonging. When you are there, the silence feels absolute. It humbles every heartbeat. But then you see a musk ox, a prehistoric-looking beast, and you realize life finds a way.
And deep in this system is the village of Ittoqqortoormiit. And yes, I practiced saying that for about 20 minutes before we started recording.
You did well. It was often called the village carved into the edge of the world. It's over 1,300 miles or 2,100 kilometers from the capital, Nuuk.
1,300 miles from the capital. That's like living in London and your capital is, well, Moscow almost.
It was established in the early 1900s by Inuit families seeking new hunting grounds. Life there is completely dictated by the frozen months and the rhythm of the sea.
I read that the silence there is so profound that the crunch of snow under your boots feels amplified, like it's loud.
That's the psychological aspect of silence. When the background noise of traffic and electricity is removed, the immediate becomes intense. Your own breath sounds like a gale. Isolation there acts as a barrier to the chaos of the modern world, which is nice, but we have to talk about logistics. This isn't just peace and quiet. This is the supply ship comes twice a year.
Twice a year. So if you run out of, I don't know, fresh fruit or a specific screw for your snowmobile,
You wait 6 months. Or you pay a fortune for air freight if the weather allows a helicopter. Connection is fragile. It forces a community reliance that we have largely lost in the rest of the world. You cannot survive Ittoqqortoormiit alone.
it's a trade-off. You get peace, but you give up convenience and safety to a degree. Now, we have one final leg of our journey. We're going north, high north, to the final frontier.
We're heading to Quack. This is in the far northwest.
This place has a bit of a heavy history regarding its founding, doesn't it? It wasn't just a natural settlement.
No, it wasn't. It was founded in the 1950s when families were forced to relocate by Danish authorities to make room for the Thule Air Base. It's a scar in the history, but the community that formed is resilient. It is nearly 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle.
So we are deep, deep in the circle.
Deep enough that they experience the polar night. They are gripped by darkness for months at a time. The sun literally does not rise from October to February.
Imagine living in a village of primary colored houses set against ancient snow, and for months, your world is lit only by the moon, the stars, and the northern lights. What does that do to the human brain?
It changes your internal clock. But yet life flows gently. You hear sled dogs howling in the dark. You hear children laughing in the blue twilight. Ice fishing continues by headlamp. It's a community that has adapted to conditions most of us can't even fathom.
And beyond Kujalleq, what's past the last village?
The North Greenland Sea. The void. This is the furthest reach of the high Arctic.
This is where the map just sort of fades into white.
Historically, this area defied the boldest explorers. You have shifting ice sheets towering 50 feet high, 15 meters. The temperature plunges to minus 40.
Minus 40. That's that unique point where Celsius and Fahrenheit meet. The temperature where it doesn't matter what scale you use, it's just painfully cold.
At that temperature, exposed skin freezes in minutes. And sound. Sound travels differently in air that cold and dense.
You used the word lattice earlier to describe the ice here. That implies structure. But we're talking about sea ice stuff that moves. If I'm standing at the edge of the North Greenland Sea looking into the void, what am I actually hearing? Is it silent?
It is never truly silent. That is the paradox. Because the ice is fighting the ocean currents, it screams.
It screams.
It screeches, groans, thunders. When two massive sheets of sea ice collide, we're talking millions of tons, they grind against each other. It sounds like a train derailment in slow motion. The scream of the ice travels for miles. So you're standing on the edge of the known world looking into a white abyss, and the earth itself sounds like it's in pain. It's a visceral reminder that this landscape is active. It is not a dead rock. It is a shifting, violent, living thing that simply does not care if you survive it.
That is intense. It sounds like a spiritual experience as much as a physical one.
It is. It's a world that is caught between fierce endurance and fragile beauty. It's a void, but it's alive with hidden stories written in crystal and wind.
Wow. We've gone from the ancient ice sheet to the pulsing glaciers, through the colorful towns, and ended up at the absolute edge of the void where the ice screams.
It's quite a journey.
So let's bring it back home. Let's synthesize this. We started by asking what remoteness really means.
And I think the answer is clearer now. We tend to think of remoteness as disconnection, being off the grid. But Greenland teaches us the opposite. The ice flows in the north affect the sea levels in the south. The weather systems generated there affect crops in Europe.
So even the furthest places are part of the intricate web we all share. It's not over there, it's part of here.
Exactly. Remoteness isn't about being unrelated, it's about being indifferent. The landscape doesn't care about us, but we are deeply tied to it.
And for the listener, sitting in traffic or at their desk or folding laundry, why does this matter? Why should they care about a frozen fjord 3,000 miles away?
I think it offers a necessary perspective shift. We get so caught up in our daily anxieties, the deadline, the email, the traffic jam. Knowing that there is a place of such scale, such indifference, helps frame those anxieties.
It makes our problems feel a little smaller. Oh, you missed a meeting. Well, the Greenland Ice Sheet has been sitting there for 2 million years and doesn't care.
It does. And it reminds us that silence isn't just empty space. The silence of Greenland is a language we have forgotten how to listen to. It's a chance to reset our internal clock.
I love that. The world is bigger than our notifications.
Much bigger.
Here's a final thought I want to leave you with. We often walk around thinking of ourselves as the main characters, the protagonists of the planet. We shape the world. But standing on that ice sheet reveals a world that does not need us. It was here before us, and it will be here after us. Yet, paradoxically, it is deeply affected by us and our climate choices.
It is the ultimate contradiction. We are insignificant to the ice, yet we have the power to destroy it.
How do we reconcile that power we have to melt the ice with the insignificance we feel when standing on it? That's something to think about tonight.
Indeed.
Thanks for taking the dive with us. We'll see you next time.